Hey everyone, Jessica here, your born and raised Southwest Florida real estate expert. Today I am talking about something that people think they understand until they buy or sell their home and realize that they don't. And that is flood zone. What's changing in 2026, what actually matters, how the flood zone affects your insurance rates, your property value, and your long-term plans. Before we dive in, if you want me to look up your property's flood zone, just shoot me a quick message and I'll pull that info for you. So flood zones are basically FEMA's way of predicting the likelihood of flooding in a particular area. We'll hear terms like AE, BE, floodway, and X, which is the best one to hear. That means you're not in a flood zone. If you are AE or VE, that means you are higher risk for flooding. If you're in one of those zones and you have a mortgage, flood insurance is not optional. So beyond just affecting your insurance, your flood zone also affects what you can remodel in your home, what elevation you have to build a new home to, and then obviously your resale value to consumers. So if you're thinking about buying soon, reach out to me so I can break all of this down for you before you fall in love with a particular home. It's way easier when you understand all of this information up front. So now what's changing in 2026? Lee County has several map panels that are adjusting. FEMA has been doing this periodically since Hurricane Ian hit our area. Only a handful of areas are included, but some of these changes can be big. And it's really important to know when you're buying a home that you may not be in a flood zone today, but this map adjustment could be made. And then you're put into a flood zone, and then you have a mortgage and your insurance, you're forced to get flood insurance. And then all of a sudden you can't afford your home. So it's important to know all of this. And so not only your current risk, but your future risk. So if your home or the home you're looking at sits anywhere near a creek, a basin, a canal, then you're going to want to pay attention. Even a small change on that map can affect your insurance, your remodel plans, and your resale value. And you may even think, well, this area never flooded, or that home hasn't flooded, or my current home hasn't flooded. That's not, FEMA doesn't care whether it actually flooded. It's the risk of it flooding over the next 100 years. So, and quite frankly, we never thought Ian would happen. So now I'm going to go on for the tangent here. Me being born and raised here in Southwest Florida, my senior year of high school, we had 3 major hurricanes hit our area: Hurricane Charlie, Wilma, and another one. We were off school for a month, and it was great because it was my senior year. But back then, I didn't have kids, I didn't own a home, and now it's a whole different ballgame. And going through Ian and seeing that destruction, I will never say never ever again. So just what I say now is just if you are just plan on it flooding, if you're near a creek or near a canal, or that's the mindset you have to have when you are buying a home. Okay, so let's talk about what actually matters for flood in 2026. If you're looking at a particular home, a particular area of Cape Coral, you can check out what the current flood zone is for that home or that area. And also there you can check on a future, they put out what they're going to do before they do it. You can check future maps to see if you're going to be affected by this in the next few years or while you own the home. So second, if you are in a zone or looking into a zone that is going to change or over the next few years, you can talk to an insurance agent sooner rather than later. Get the costs for a quote for today on what the flood zone is. And then you can also ask them to quote it based on what the future flood zone may be, so that you know exactly what you're getting into before you get into it. My biggest fear in this business I'm in is that a person gets a home today, and then next year the insurance changes, the taxes change, the HOA fees change, and you can't afford it. So just make sure that when you're starting this process, you go into it with your eyes wide open. In worst case scenario, I'm typically not a worst case scenario liver of my life, but there are certain situations where you need to be prepared for the worst, and home ownership is one. I don't want somebody to buy a house today and not be able to afford it next year. That's a nightmare. Also, if you are buying a home that is in a flood zone it needs remodeling, you have to factor in that you can only remodel up to 50% of that home's above 1 foot above flood level. So it's definitely really important to know first what you want to do to a home, and maybe even get quotes from contractors and that sort of thing to know that, okay, if I buy this house, value before you have to bring it up to today's codes. So today's flood code is that everything has to be a foot above the base flood elevation. So that means that if you wanted to remodel more than 50% of your home's value, you would be forced to raise that home up. This is all I can do to it. So, before you buy it, it's important to know and pay attention to that. I'm rambling again. Another thing to pay attention to in 2026, especially as the maps are changing pretty regularly, if the home you're looking at needs to be updated or remodeled, your flood zone limits how much remodeling you can do before you have to bring it up to today's code. It's really important to pay attention to not only the current, but the future flood zone that your potential property is in. And for my sellers watching this, make sure you know your flood zone and disclose it clearly. Buyers appreciate transparency. And if your property is in a panel that may be changing in 2026, we definitely want to position correctly. If you need help navigating that, I am happy to help. You can also send me a message or an email, call me, whatever works best for you. Okay, so here you're seeing 6 of the map panels that may change in 2026. If your home is in one of those areas, the shift could lead to mandatory flood insurance if you carry a mortgage, increased premiums, or those remodel restrictions you didn't have before. That's why reviewing your property now is so important, and paying attention to these things when you are looking at different areas in Southwest Florida to buy your next home. These are readily available on the county's website, and I'm happy to provide them to you. Just shoot me a message and I can walk you through how to find them, or I can just, of course, email them all to you. All right, so that's your 2026 flood zone update. Hopefully it was clear and simple and easier to understand than what you may be reading online. The biggest takeaway here is that flood zones affect more than just your insurance rate. They affect your remodeling abilities and your resale value. So important when you're choosing a home to pay attention to not only the current flood zone, but also what and if there may be changes coming to your flood zone in the future. If you are a current homeowner in Southwest Florida and you want me to check your home's current flood zone and if there may be any changes to your flood zone in the next couple of years, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to help anyone and everyone that I can. If you're a buyer coming to our market, please also don't hesitate to reach out and let me help you get ahead of some of this stuff and make the decision process easier for you. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more local updates like this. I also do neighborhood tours annually and get to see some of my listings throughout the county. I will see y'all soon.